Hey out there, legal warriors. Do you ever wonder how a criminal case actually gets filed? What physically happens? Knowing that really helps anybody figure out what's going to happen if there's a criminal case going on. If you're interested in this area of law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington state for more than 20 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. I'm just going to jump right into it. Why do we even care about physically what happens when a criminal case gets filed? And the reason why we care is because it's so confusing. I'm filming this on a holiday weekend and I'm dealing with calls, and so many times it's like, hey, my loved one just got arrested. What happens next? Or, hey, I got stopped, a week ago, but I don't have any court dates. What happens next? That not knowing what happens in the criminal system just sort of drives everybody crazy. And then you go to lawyer Google and you start finding all these scary websites that say all these bad things are going to happen. And there might not even be in your area, in your jurisdiction, and it's just confusing. So why it matters is because it will help provide some sanity to figuring out what's going on if you're ever in this situation. So, this is good to know regardless. So let's start from the basics. A criminal case in Washington state is initiated by basically a complaint. It means it's something that a law enforcement agency person signs. Sometimes it's a police officer, sometimes it's a prosecutor. They sign a complaint that says, okay, Mr. Defendant is charged with a certain violation, driving under the influence under RCW 4661-502, something like that. And that document, the complaint, is what starts the official criminal proceeding against a defendant. Now, that's different than just an arrest. Someone who get arrested on probable cause and there is no criminal complaint. And those are the people that call up and say, I've been arrested, but there's no court date. And that's because there's been no criminal complaint filed. And subject to other videos I've talked about before, some police officers, usually city officers, can file a criminal complaint and start a case, and there's a court date right away. And sometimes if they're a county person, then they are not allowed to do that. Or if there's felonies, no one's allowed to do that. That complaint has to be signed by a prosecuting attorney. So let's move to the situation where the officer has not filed their own complaint directly into court. What happens? Well, that means a police report has been sent to a prosecuting attorney. Which prosecuting attorney? It depends on the geographical jurisdiction where the alleged crime happened. A city of Shoreline case would go to the city of Shoreline prosecutor's office. A case that happens in unincorporated Snohomish County would go to the Snohomish County prosecutor's office. A case that happens in an incorporated area, a city limit, city of Linwood, city of Edmonds, they would go to the Linwood or Edmonds prosecutors respectively. And some cities pay the county to do their prosecution. So that's why you probably want to talk to an attorney to figure out what's going on, because which prosecuting agency has it controls about how long it's going to take, right? But physically what happens is there's a prosecutor or prosecutors who are assigned to make charging decisions. And they're going to look at a police report. And they're going to read the report and they're going to do what they do. They might want to call the witnesses or the victims. They may just read the report. They may want to reach out to the officer for more information. But if they decide to file a criminal complaint, what they're going to do is they're going to, create one. It could be electronically in some systems, or let's imagine it's on paper. There's a lot of paper complaints still. It's going to be a template that gets filled out, and then they're going to say, put in the defendant's name and date of birth, and what's the charge, and it's got to have all the charging language, and then they sign it. They sign it either physical copy or electronically, and now that complaint isn't still mean anything. It's a complaint. It says they're charging someone with the crime, but they have to do something with it. Okay, what do they need to do with it? Well, they have to file it in the court that has jurisdiction over that type of crime over the geographic area in question. So a city of Linwood prosecutor is not going to file their criminal complaint into the Seattle court, because Seattle doesn't have jurisdiction over crimes that occur in Linwood. So let's imagine it is Linwood, that prosecutor is going to fill out the criminal complaint, and then they're going to file it with the court. So in this case, if it was Linwood, it'd be Linwood Municipal Court. And that complaint gets over there either on paper or electronically. And now what happens? Well, now there's going to be a court clerk or someone that works for the court. He or she is going to look at that information and put it into their computer. Well, the prosecuting agency assigned this. It looks legal. I'm going to put it in the court system. And now I'm going to follow the court rules for filed complaints. And what I have to do is I have to find a court date where the arraignment can be scheduled. So the court clerk takes a look, finds the court date. It has to typically be within 2 weeks of the date the complaint is filed. And they're going to say, well, we do our arraignments, for example, with Shoe South District Court. They do a lot of their arraignments Tuesdays at 1:30. Well, I have to set a court date within 14 days of the date they filed this. I'm going to pick out a Tuesday at 1:30. Let's say June 6th, 2023. That's about 10 days from when I'm filming this. And now I'm going to set that date for arraignment. Now what happens? How do we tell the defendant, right? Someone's got to tell the defendant that there's been a charge filed against them in court. It's not the prosecutor typically who tells the defendant, it's the court. So the court is now going to generate a summons, okay? It's going to generate a summons, a command to appear in court. And that's typically going to be mailed. So you have to watch your mail. It's going to be mailed to the defendant on the address that the officer took down in their police report. And imagine, so let's say it gets set in 10 days because they do them on Tuesdays, and there's a Tuesday 10 days from the date it's filed or a Tuesday 17 days. Well, they can't do the 17 because that's outside of 14 in the court rules. So they do it at the 10-day mark. They mail it. You might get it with only 6 days until court. And if you're not checking your mail, you might miss it. So why you need to know how this works, because if you or someone you care about has been involved in a possible criminal situation, you have to use your brain and you have to think, what's likely to happen so I can diagnose what I should be watching for. Now, you can just call an attorney, but these videos, YouTube is education, trying to give you the power to understand what's likely to happen. Now, there are some exceptions, felonies in King County. Sometimes a public defender will give a call or other places to the defendant to warn them they're on the calendar, just as a sort of a service so less people miss court. But that's not really routine. So what happened? The prosecutor looked at it. They filled out a complaint. They filed the complaint in court. The court sends a summons, and now the defendant goes to court. So that's what happens in a situation where the prosecutor files a complaint. Moving back to the other situation where the police officer has the ability to file the complaint, think city police officers for the most part, non-felonies, always it has to be a non-felony. Well, they could fill out their own, they might call it a citation as compared to a complaint, and I'm talking about crimes, not traffic infractions here. They might fill out their own citation, and they'll take that and usually electronically file it with the court, and it counts the same as the prosecutor filing the complaint themselves. Usually in that case, they're going to give the offender, the person that they are filing the charge on, they're going to give them a copy of the citation. So take a look at that citation. It's pretty tough to read. But usually somewhere in the bottom right-hand part, middle to right, it'll say a court date and a court time. If there's a court date and a court time listed, that's because the officer already knows what to put there. So you're still going to be likely getting a summons from the court, but now you'll know ahead of time when it is you're likely to have court. And occasionally they get it wrong, so don't just only rely on that. Try to talk to an attorney. But in that case, the officer fills out the complaint or citation, they might call it. They file it with the court, and that is the charging document, and now your case is started. And there'll be an arraignment set. In some instances, the arraignment already happens. In a domestic violence case, let's say it's a Bellevue domestic violence case, someone gets arrested there for a non-felony, the officer's going to file their own citation, and the person's probably going to be in the score jail, and they're going to set an arraignment by Zoom, and that person who got arrested will have their first court date from jail, the arraignment where they'll enter a plea of not guilty, hopefully get released, and then have new court dates set. So there's so many different variations of what could happen. That's why you definitely want to talk to an attorney who's been around a while, who has experience in the area to know what to expect. But what I want you to know is just physically how does it work? Because then you can figure out the problems, right? That's what I teach my own staff, right? If I got a new attorney on board, we say, we can logic out what happens. Which person's going to make the decision? Once they make the decision, where do they go with it? Which court do they file it in? What does the court do? Now you know. So hopefully this gives you the power to fish and think for ourselves. So if you found this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. And more importantly, if you have a legal problem, a criminal matter in Washington State, feel free to give my office a call. We've been doing this for more than 20 years. We'll listen to what happened. We'll identify a way forward. We will be there for you. Thank you.